Hello, it's Robert Trout. It's June 7th, 2026, and I thought what I'd do today is just give you a little tour of my workshop slash ant room. Show you the various colonies that I'm keeping. I know I've showed you some more detailed updates of some of them, but this is going to be a brief overview of all of them. This is a Tetramorium colony, probably the biggest one I have. I have a brood chamber on the side. And then this is the original container they started off in. It's not near as big as it looks because there's a big piece of 2x4 in the middle there with probably only about a half an inch of soil around the outside for them to nest in. I'm pretty sure the queen is in there. That's where she started off in there. So, you'll have to excuse these makeshift shades that I'm using here. Our tree out back is a black locust, and you can see it's just starting to get its leaves there. Usually flowers about June 10th, so when it does come fully out in leaf, I'll be able to get rid of those shades. These colonies are all connected with tubing. It's various chambers. This one is their liquids feeding chamber with water and sugar water. And then next is the chamber I think they use probably for pupa, because I've got a big rock in there that warms up during the day and then keeps them warm at night. And it's connected to their feeding chamber. It has a feeding port on top. I'm pretty sure that without that I'd have a hard time feeding these girls, because if I was to take that lid off, they'd rush the top of that pretty quickly. So I'm able to feed them without any escapes. And this is my second Tetramorium colony. Again, this is their feeding port with the on top of their feeding chamber. I have the two feeding chambers right side by side, so it's easy to feed them both at the same time. Next, there's the liquids feeding chamber with water and sugar water. And then beside that again is their chamber with a big rock to keep them nice and warm for their pupa. And beside that is their little larva chamber with, well, there you can see some eggs in there, some larvae. It's nice to see. And you'll notice that these all have hydration tubes. All you have to do is just take out that plug and use a hypodermic, or usually I use a dental irrigator to put water in there back into a usually bottle cap with screen on top, just to keep the nest hydrated. And lastly is the queen chamber. This is where she started off. I'm pretty sure she's probably still in there. Nice quiet spot for her to produce eggs and keep the colony going. The window location is ideal for these Tapenoma Cecile colonies that I have as well. And this one I've had for quite a while. It's got a sort of a queen chamber here. Let's just have a look, see. I don't usually check these very often. We'll have a look what's going on here. And there's quite a few queens in there. It's a bit easier to see the eggs with a little bit of a darker background there. You can see they're doing quite nicely. And a private chamber for the queens. I've got quite a few Tapenoma colonies because, as you know from reading my journal, they're fairly easy to lure into a nice formicarium, and I like keeping them. They're quite easy to keep. They eat pretty much anything I give them, and they don't complain too much, so who could ask any more from an ant colony? So this is my pet rock colony, again, a Tapenoma Cecile colony. They've got their sugar water and water feeding tubes out the front, and this one has a big rock in it that probably weighs about 15 pounds. And as you notice there, I don't have the shade over the whole thing, so when the sun is shining, it does warm that rock up quite a bit, and I think they quite enjoy that. This colony doesn't look like much, but there's thousands of ants in there, so they're doing quite nicely. I've also got quite a few Temnothorax curvy bee spinosus and longi spinosus ants, acorn ants, and you know, it doesn't take much of a formicarium to keep them. As you can see, they're actually quite happy in fairly small condition there. And I've also got some founding Myrmica colonies as well. These guys I've found in a woodlot, basically living in walnuts. And again, that's a nice, easy way to get a colony started. If you can find one with a queen and brood, then it's easy to get them established. Capanotus ants. You've seen this very recently in an update. This queen is one I caught last season. And she's got a nice bunch of larvae and some cocoons in there, and they're looking after them quite nicely. They actually moved. They all moved into this formicarium that I've got them attached to, and today they moved them all back into the test tube. So that's kind of nice, because I do like to look at them in the test tube, keep track of them there. So that's good. I've got 3 older Campanotus colonies as well. This one is doing quite nicely. They take protein quite well, and again, they've got sugar water and water tubes there as well. These next 2 are Campanotus colonies that I've had for quite a while, and as you can see, this is my sort of demonstration colony that I take with me to show the students, and to sort of meetings that I go to where I show my ants. Nice and portable. And this colony, the castle colony, they're not very active at the moment, because actually I think what's going on here is that they reached the stage where they've got a lot of cocoons in here. Yeah, there they are. And they've got some eggs in there, but if they've hatched, their larvae are pretty small. So they really haven't got a lot of requirement for protein right now, just with being sort of in the middle of a batch of eggs, probably still the ones from last fall, and a new batch from this spring. So I'm sure that their demand for protein will pick up once those larvae get a little bigger and a little hungrier. This is a Myrmica colony that I've had, again, for quite a while. They're doing quite nicely. Hard to see it there, but they got a nice bunch of larvae in there, doing quite well. So I'm happy with those. This second Myrmica colony here. Look what they're doing. See, these guys are a little panicky with the light, but there you can see they've got quite a few larvae down in there. Doing quite well. I try not to bother these girls too much, because they're, like I said, a little panicky. And oh, this is another Tapanoma colony. This is the one I kept on the plant stand over this past winter, and yeah, they're doing quite well. So glad with their progress. I see you got an escapee there. I've got a couple of Formica colonies which I haven't had before. I found these guys, again, there you can see the remnants of the walnut on the left, chamber on the left there. When I found them, I really didn't know whether there was a queen in there or not, or what, so I don't know. I'm just letting them go and see what happens. This is another Formica colony here, which I do know has a queen, because I actually caught her last year. She managed to raise a couple of workers, and they've been doing some digging and eating, and I'm kind of hoping there's a batch of cocoons in there ripening right now, and we'll just have to see what happens with them. I've got quite a few Lasius colonies too. These are sort of founding colonies, just little guys. that are coming along quite nicely. I haven't fed them since last night, so if they had food there, they'd be swarming that food quite well, because they're doing quite nicely. Here's another one. You might recognize this formicarium. It's one I was able to get last year. Sort of see there. And this is the original cube chamber that they started in. The queen's likely in there as well. And we've got one more sort of founding colony here. And this formicarium, I think you might remember that one as well. And let's take a look-see here. Yeah, there you can see there. We've got some quite a few eggs there. Some nice cocoons. So I'm quite happy with how they're coming along. And I also have some Lasius colonies that are actually that I've had for quite a while. Here's one that is doing quite nicely. They started off, of course, in this be their founding chamber. Then I added this chamber when they got sort of outgrew the founding chamber, and there you can sort of see they're quite nicely down in there. And I've connected this chamber to them this year. It's a plaster, or rather grout, and a vermiculite chamber. And actually, if you look at the back, you can see there's a hole in that hill to the left, and there's another one on that little hill to the right. You can see them going in and out of there. I've got them just sitting on the edge of the heat mat here, so that the one chamber is heated, and that's where they've been keeping their cocoons in there, and the larvae in the other section there. I've got in between all these, I've got the Chromatogaster 2 colony, and they're doing quite nicely. They've obviously got a big rock in theirs as well. But let me just move this to the side, and they're sitting directly on the heat mat. This is the second fairly large Lasius colony. There you can sort of see the tubes in there. Now they've moved some cocoons in there, but they've also got tubes that are all inset into the vermiculite and moss that's in there. And then they're attached to their original chamber here that they started off in. And as you can see, they've been bringing me their garbage to the feeding port. I'm going to have to do some cleaning in there when I feed them tonight. But on the whole, I think they're doing quite nicely. So that's a brief overview of the colonies that I have. I've got a couple of Chromatogaster queens in the box. I've got Chromatogaster 3 here, which, as you know, lost their queen. I'm still sort of debating what I'm going to do with them. Chromatogaster 2 colonies getting close to outgrowing the setup that they're in. I'd like to move them in here, but we'll see. And as of yesterday, I actually have 2 Camponotus queens that I found yesterday, and got them in test tubes here. So we'll see just what happens with them. All right, well, that's basically the ant room workshop tour, and as you can see, there's a number of different colonies there, just enough to keep a guy busy, trying to keep them all fed and cleaned and watered, and yeah, that certainly keeps me busy. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll update in more detail a lot of these colonies that you've never seen before, like these Lycius colonies. I'll go through them in more detail and just explain what's going on in each one, and we'll take a look, in behind some of these and just see what's going on in these, pupa chambers and see what's happening. So stay tuned. There will be more to come. Bye now.